they thought she was lying. Everyone did. Until the moment Commander Hayes opened that worn leather wallet and his face went pale. The Alaskan wind cut through Fort Richardson like a blade made of ice. January mornings here didn't just arrive, they attacked. Sergeant Maya Reeves stood at attention outside the briefing hall, her breath forming clouds in the -20-degree air. Her hands, bare for inspection protocol, had gone numb 10 minutes ago. She didn't move, didn't flinch. Rangers didn't flinch. Inside, she could hear voices, laughter, the kind that cuts deeper than any cold. "Another one," someone said through the door. "Third this month trying to get into reconnaissance selection with some sob story." "Let me guess," another voice chimed in, dripping with sarcasm. "Dead parent? Childhood trauma? Overcame impossible odds?" More laughter. Maya's jaw tightened, but her face remained stone. She'd heard it before. Hell, she'd lived it before. 29 years old, 5'6", 130 pounds of what the old guard still called a liability in the field. Never mind that she'd scored expert marksman on every qualification since basic. Never mind the 2 tours in Iraq as a combat medic where she'd pulled 3 wounded soldiers from a burning Humvee while taking fire. Never mind any of it. She was a woman. In their eyes, that was the only qualification that mattered. The door opened. Master Sergeant Victor Kane filled the frame, 6'4", 240 pounds of muscle, scar tissue, and old-school military thinking. His eyes swept over Maya with the warmth of a tax audit. "Reeves," he said flatly, "you're up." Maya stepped inside. The briefing room smelled like coffee, gun oil, and testosterone. 12 men sat around the tactical table, most leaning back with crossed arms. A few didn't even look up from their phones. At the head sat Commander Daniel Hayes, a decorated ranger with 23 years of service and a reputation for running the hardest selection program in the Army. Hayes gestured to a chair. "Sit." Maya remained standing. "With respect, sir, I'd prefer to stand." Kane snorted. "Course you would," trying to look tough. "No, Master Sergeant," Maya replied evenly. "Just comfortable with discomfort." A few smirks around the table. Hayes raised a hand for silence. "Sergeant Reeves," he began, flipping open a folder. "Says here you're requesting entry into the 75th Ranger Regiment Reconnaissance Company selection. That's a 14-week program with a 92% attrition rate. We've had Green Berets wash out, SEALs wash out, men who could bench press you with one arm." "Yes, sir." "So help me understand," Hayes continued, leaning forward. "What makes you think you belong here?" Maya met his gaze without blinking. "Because I do, sir." Kane laughed, a harsh, barking sound. "That's it? That's your pitch? Because I do?" "I don't need a pitch, Master Sergeant. I need a chance to prove it." "Prove what?" Kane shot back. "That you can do a pull-up? That you won't cry when things get hard? We don't run daycare here, Reeves. This is life-or-death reconnaissance. Deep insertion. Weeks behind enemy lines with zero support. You think you're ready for that?" "I know I am." Another voice piped up from the table. Lieutenant Marcus Webb, younger than the others. Cocky smile plastered across his face. "Let me guess your story, Reeves. Tough childhood. Dad was military. Wanted to make him proud." Maya said nothing. Webb leaned back, grinning. "Yeah, I've heard it 100 times. Everyone's got a dead parent or a tragic backstory. It doesn't mean you can ruck 40 miles with 80 pounds on your back. It doesn't mean you can survive Hell Week." "With respect, Lieutenant," Maya said quietly, "you don't know my story." "Then enlighten us," Hayes said. "Because right now, all I see is a combat medic with decent scores and a chip on her shoulder. Tell me something I don't know." Maya hesitated. Not because she didn't want to share, but because every time she did, people either didn't believe her or thought she was looking for sympathy. She'd learned long ago that the only proof that mattered was performance. But Hayes was giving her an opening. A test, maybe, or a trap. "My father was Benjamin Reeves," she said finally. "Sergeant Major, 2nd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment. Killed in action in Afghanistan, October 2009, during Operation Mountain Descent. I was 13. A few of the men shifted uncomfortably. Kane's expression didn't change. "I'm sorry for your loss," Hayes said, and he sounded like he meant it. "But that doesn't—" "I'm not finished, sir." Hayes paused, nodded. Maya reached into her uniform pocket and pulled out a small, worn leather wallet. She placed it on the table and slid it toward Hayes. He carried that every day in theater. Inside, there's a photo of me and my mom. And behind that photo, there's something else. Something he made me promise never to show anyone unless I absolutely had to. Hayes opened the wallet carefully, like it might break. He pulled out the faded photograph, a young girl with pigtails standing next to a smiling woman in front of a small house. He smiled faintly, then looked behind it. His expression changed instantly. The room went silent. Hayes pulled out a small laminated card. It was old, yellowed at the edges, but the text was still clear. Official military identification, but not just any ID. It was a classified operations clearance card, the kind given only to operatives working in the most covert units within JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command, the kind most Rangers would never even see, let alone carry. And the name on it wasn't Benjamin Reeves, it was Benjamin Cross. Hayes looked up slowly, his face pale. "Where did you get this?" "From my father's personal effects," Maya said quietly. "Delivered to my mother 3 weeks after his funeral, along with a letter from a man who didn't give his name. The letter said my father wasn't just a Ranger. He was part of something else, something that didn't officially exist." Kane stood up abruptly. "That's classified material. You shouldn't even have that." "I know," Maya said. "But he left it for me. And the letter said if I ever needed proof of who he really was, proof that I came from a legacy of soldiers who operated in the shadows, I should show it." Hayes stared at the card for a long moment, then looked at Kane. Something unspoken passed between them. Webb leaned forward, confused. "What the hell is that?" Hayes didn't answer him. Instead, he looked back at Maya. "Your father was Benjamin Cross, the Benjamin Cross." Maya nodded. "Holy shit," someone whispered. Even Kane looked shaken now, because everyone in that room who'd been in the regiment long enough knew the name. Benjamin Cross was a ghost story, a legend. The Ranger who'd allegedly been part of a black ops unit so secret that even their missions were erased from record. The man who'd single-handedly extracted a CIA asset from a Taliban compound. The operator who'd been declared KIA in a firefight that officially never happened. And Maya Reeves was his daughter. Hayes closed the wallet carefully and slid it back across the table. When he spoke again, his voice was different, respectful. "Why didn't you lead with this?" "Because I'm not my father," Maya said. "And I don't want to be here because of his name. I want to be here because I earned it." For the first time since she'd walked in, the room was completely silent. Hayes stood. "Sergeant Reeves, you'll report to selection on Monday, 0500 hours. Don't be late." Maya saluted sharply. "Yes, sir." As she turned to leave, Kane called out, "Reeves." She stopped. "Your father was the best I ever served with," Kane said quietly. "If you're half as good as he was, you'll make it through. If you're not, you'll wash out in the first week. Either way, we'll find out." Maya nodded once, then walked out into the Alaskan cold. Behind her, she heard Webb's voice. Quieter now, uncertain. "Who the hell was Benjamin Cross?" And Hayes's reply, steady and somber. "The kind of soldier you hope exists when everything goes to hell, and the kind you pray you never have to become." Outside, Maya let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Her hands were still numb. The wind still cut like a knife. But for the first time in years, she felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel since her father died. Hope. Monday morning arrived like a punishment from the gods themselves. Maya stood in formation with 43 other candidates on the frozen tarmac of Fort Richardson. Most were men, broad-shouldered, thick-necked, eyes burning with the kind of confidence that came from years of combat experience or special forces training. A few looked at her with curiosity. Most looked at her like she was already gone. The instructors emerged from the building like a pack of wolves. Master Sergeant Kane led them, his face carved from granite, his voice a bullhorn wrapped in barbed wire. "Welcome to hell," he roared. "For the next 14 weeks, you will be pushed beyond anything you thought possible. You will question every decision that brought you here. You will beg to quit, and most of you will." He paced in front of the formation, his boots crunching on ice. This is not basic training. This is not ranger school. This is reconnaissance selection. The pipeline to the most elite reconnaissance operators in the United States Army. If you make it through, you will infiltrate enemy territory. You will gather intelligence that saves lives. You will operate in places where backup doesn't exist, and mistakes mean death. Kane stopped directly in front of Maya. Their eyes met. Some of you think you're special, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Some of you think your last name or your scores or your sob story will carry you through. Let me be clear. None of that matters here. The only thing that matters is whether you can perform when your body is screaming to stop and your mind is begging you to quit. He stepped back, surveying the entire formation. Week 1 is hell week. No sleep. Constant physical and mental stress. If you survive, you move to week 2. Most of you won't. A candidate near the back, a massive guy built like a linebacker, raised his hand. Master Sergeant, what's the record for fastest washout? Kane smiled coldly. 17 minutes. Candidate quit during the first run. Don't be that guy. He blew his whistle. Move. 5-mile run. Full gear. Last 5 to finish, do it again. The formation exploded into motion. Maya's legs pumped hard, her boots pounding frozen ground. The cold air burned her lungs. Around her, candidates jostled for position, trying to establish dominance early. She stayed in the middle of the pack, not first, not last, conserving energy, staying smart. By mile 3, 2 candidates had already dropped out, doubled over and vomiting on the side of the trail. By mile 4, Maya noticed something. The biggest guys, the ones who looked like action figures, were starting to slow. Too much muscle, too much weight. Their bodies burned fuel faster. Meanwhile, leaner candidates like her maintained pace. She crossed the finish line in the middle third. Not impressive, but not last. Kane was waiting at the finish, stopwatch in hand. Congratulations, you survived a basic morning run. Now grab your rucks, 80 pounds, and do it again. Groans rippled through the group. Maya shouldered her ruck without complaint. 80 pounds of sandbags, water, and dead weight. Her shoulders screamed immediately, but she adjusted the straps and kept moving. This time, the pack thinned faster. The linebacker from earlier fell behind, his face purple with exertion. A younger candidate, couldn't have been more than 22, sat down halfway through and refused to get up. I can't, he gasped. I can't do it. An instructor appeared beside him like a shadow. Then you're done. Ring the bell. At the edge of the course sat a brass bell mounted on a post. It gleamed in the weak sunlight. Ring it 3 times, and you were out. No judgment, no shame, just over. The young candidate staggered to the bell and rang it. Once, twice, 3 times. The sound echoed across the frozen base like a death knell. Maya kept running. The first night they weren't allowed to sleep. Instead, they were submerged in ice baths. Metal tubs filled with water just above freezing. 10 minutes in, 10 minutes out. Repeat. Maya's teeth chattered so violently she thought they'd crack. Her fingers turned blue. Her mind screamed at her to get out, to ring the bell, to make it stop. But she didn't move. Beside her, a candidate started crying. Not sobbing, just silent tears streaming down his frozen face. An instructor leaned down. You okay, son? The candidate nodded weakly. You sure? Because if you're not, there's no shame in ringing out. This isn't for everyone. The candidate looked at the bell, then at the instructor. Then he climbed out of the tub and walked away. Another one gone. Maya closed her eyes and focused on her breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. She'd learned this as a medic. How to control pain through breath, through focus, through sheer stubborn willpower. When her 10 minutes were up, she climbed out without assistance and stood dripping on the ice, waiting for the next round. Kane walked past and paused. Reeves, you good? Yes, Master Sergeant. He studied her for a moment, then moved on. By day 3, the group had shrunk from 43 to 29. They'd been through log PT, carrying a massive telephone pole as a team through obstacle courses. They'd done surf torture in the freezing Alaskan Bay, lying in the water while waves crashed over them. They'd crawled through mud pits under barbed wire while instructors threw smoke grenades and fired blanks overhead. Maya's hands were raw and bleeding. Her knees were shredded. Her body felt like it had been hit by a truck, dragged for miles, then hit again. But she was still there. On the morning of day 4, Kane gathered the remaining candidates. "You've made it further than most," he said. "But Hell Week isn't over. Today you face the navigation challenge. You'll be dropped in the wilderness with nothing but a map, compass, and a list of coordinates. You have 24 hours to hit every checkpoint and return to base. No phones, no GPS, no help. If you get lost, you're on your own. If you quit, you ring out when you get back. If you get back." He paused, letting that sink in. "One more thing. You'll be doing this alone." A ripple of tension moved through the group. Everything up to now had been done as a team. This was different. "Reeves," Kane called out, "you're up first." Maya stepped forward. Kane handed her a map with 12 coordinates marked in red. "Memorize this. You have 2 minutes. Then I'm taking it back, and you're going in with nothing but your memory and your compass." Maya studied the map. The coordinates were spread across 100 square miles of Alaskan wilderness, forests, frozen rivers, mountain ridges. It would take precise navigation and constant movement to hit them all in time. 2 minutes later, Kane took the map. "Good luck, Reeves. Don't die out there." A helicopter lifted her into the sky and dropped her in the middle of nowhere. She was alone. The forest was silent except for the crunch of snow under her boots. Maya pulled out her compass and oriented herself. First checkpoint, northeast, approximately 8 miles. She moved quickly but carefully, checking her bearing every few hundred meters. Hours passed. The sun dipped lower. The temperature dropped. At checkpoint 5, she found something unexpected. Another candidate, sitting against a tree, looking defeated. It was Lieutenant Webb. "Reeves," he said, surprised. "You actually made it this far." "So did you," she replied, kneeling to check her compass. "Yeah, well, I'm done," Webb said bitterly. "I'm lost. I missed 2 checkpoints. I can't figure out where the hell I am." Maya looked at him. She could leave him. Should leave him, technically. This was an individual challenge, but she didn't. "What coordinates are you looking for?" she asked. Webb stared at her. "Why would you help me? I was a dick to you." "Because that's what Rangers do," Maya said simply. "We don't leave people behind." She helped him orient his map, showed him where he'd gone wrong, and pointed him in the right direction. Then she continued on her own route. 12 hours later, exhausted and frozen, Maya crossed the final checkpoint and made it back to base. She was the 3rd candidate to return. Webb came in 7th. When Kane saw her, he didn't smile, but he nodded once. And that was enough. Week 3 was when candidates started breaking in ways that had nothing to do with the body. The physical torture was relentless. Yes, endless ruck marches, obstacle courses that seemed designed by sadists, hours of treading water in full gear. But the real test was psychological. Sleep deprivation turned minds into fragile things. Hallucinations became common. One candidate swore he saw his mother standing at the edge of the training field. Another had a full conversation with someone who wasn't there. Maya wasn't immune. On day 17, during a midnight navigation drill, she looked up and saw her father standing in the tree line. He was wearing his dress uniform, the one they'd buried him in. He didn't speak, just watched her with sad, proud eyes. She blinked. He was gone. "Keep moving, Reeves," an instructor shouted. She kept moving. By week 4, only 14 candidates remained. They'd been through advanced weapons training, wilderness survival, and escape and evasion scenarios where they were hunted through the forest by instructors playing enemy combatants. Those caught were subjected to mock interrogations, hours of stress positions, strobe lights, and psychological pressure designed to break them. Maya had been captured on day 23. They'd zip-tied her hands, thrown a bag over her head, and dragged her into a dark room. For 6 hours, they'd screamed questions at her, blasted music at deafening volumes, and forced her into positions that made her muscles scream. "What's your unit? Who's your commander? What's your mission?" "Reeves, Maya, Sergeant, U.S. Army. Service number." "Wrong answer!" They'd slam their hands on the table, flashlights in her face. Tell her she was weak, that she didn't belong, that she should quit. But Maya had learned something during her father's funeral, when the officers handed her mother that folded flag and said the words, "On behalf of a grateful nation." Maya realized that pain was just information. It told you something was happening, but it didn't control you unless you let it. So she didn't let it. After 6 hours, they pulled the bag off her head. Kane stood there, arms crossed. "You passed," he said simply. "Most people break by hour 3. Maya said nothing, just breathed. Week 6 brought the team-building exercises. The remaining candidates were split into 3 teams and given impossible tasks. Build a rope bridge across a freezing river. Scale a 40-foot wall with limited equipment. Infiltrate a mock enemy compound and extract a hostage without being detected. Maya's team consisted of her, Webb, a quiet sniper named Rodriguez, and 2 former Marines, Carter and Lou. Their task, extract a hostage from a guarded compound in the middle of the forest. They had 4 hours. 12 instructor aggressors patrolled the area with paint-round weapons. Get hit, you failed. Carter immediately tried to take charge. "Okay, here's what we do. We go in fast and hard, overwhelming force." "That's idiotic," Maya said flatly. "They outnumber us 3-1. We'd be dead in 5 minutes. Carter bristled. "You got a better idea?" "Yes, we split up. Rodriguez takes overwatch on the ridge. He's our eyes. Webb and Lou create a diversion on the west side. Carter, you and I infiltrate from the east while they're distracted." "And if they don't take the bait?" Carter challenged. "Then we adapt," Maya said. "But charging in blind isn't a plan, it's suicide." Webb spoke up. "I'm with Reeves. Let's be smart about this." Carter looked like he wanted to argue, but Lou nodded in agreement. "Let's do it." They moved out. Rodriguez set up on the ridge with his rifle, whispering positions over their hand radios. 3 guards at the main gate, 2 roving patrols, 1 inside the compound near the hostage. Webb and Lou moved into position and started making noise, banging metal, shouting fake orders. Immediately, 4 guards shifted toward the sound. "Now," Maya whispered. She and Carter slipped through the shadows on the east side. The compound was surrounded by chain-link fence. Maya pulled out wire cutters and made a silent opening. They crawled through. Inside, they moved like ghosts. The remaining guards were focused on the western distraction. Maya reached the building where the hostage was held, a mannequin zip-tied to a chair. She was about to enter when a guard rounded the corner. Time froze. The guard raised his weapon. Maya reacted on instinct. She grabbed his wrist, twisted, and used his momentum to slam him into the wall. He dropped, stunned, paint rounds spilling from his weapon. Carter stared at her. "Holy shit." "Grab the hostage," Maya hissed. They extracted the mannequin and exfiltrated the same way they'd entered. By the time the instructors realized what had happened, Maya's team was already at the extraction point. Kane stood there waiting, stopwatch in hand. He looked at the mannequin, then at Maya's team. "Clean," he said. "No shots fired, no casualties. Textbook infiltration." He looked directly at Maya. "Who planned this?" "We all did, Master Sergeant," Maya said. Kane's expression didn't change, but his eyes narrowed slightly. He knew she was lying to protect her team, and he respected it. "Good work," he said. "Now do it again. You have 3 hours this time." Week 8 was when Maya earned her nickname. During an advanced marksmanship drill, candidates were tested on long-range precision shooting in extreme conditions: wind, cold, moving targets at distances up to 800 meters. Maya lay prone on the frozen ground, her rifle steady despite the brutal wind. Her target was a silhouette 800 meters away, barely visible through the scope. She breathed, calculated windage, adjusted for elevation and temperature. She squeezed the trigger. The target dropped. "Hit!" the instructor called out. She fired again. Another hit. Again. Hit. 10 shots. 10 hits. At 800 meters. In 30-mile-per-hour winds. Rodriguez, lying beside her, whistled low. "Jesus, Reeves. Where'd you learn to shoot like that?" "My father," she said quietly. That night in the barracks, Carter started calling her Ghost, because she moved silently, shot perfectly, and never seemed to break. The name stuck. By week 10, Only 9 candidates remained. The final phase was about to begin. Capstone, a week-long mission simulation where everything they'd learned would be tested in a single, continuous operation. No breaks, no mercy. Pass or fail. Commander Hayes gathered them in the briefing room. "Congratulations on making it this far," he said. "But you're not Rangers yet. Capstone will determine whether you have what it takes to operate in reconnaissance. You'll be inserted into hostile territory. Your mission: gather intelligence, evade enemy forces, and extract without being compromised. You'll be cold, hungry, and hunted. If you're captured, you'll be interrogated. If you fail, you're out." He paused. "One more thing. This time, you'll be working as a single unit, all 9 of you. If one person fails, everyone fails." The weight of that statement settled over the room like a heavy blanket. "You deploy at dawn," Hayes said. "Get some rest. You're going to need it." That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She sat outside the barracks, looking up at the Alaskan sky. The stars were impossibly bright, untouched by light pollution. Webb sat down beside her. "Can't sleep either." "No," Maya admitted. "You nervous?" "Terrified," she said honestly. Webb looked surprised. "Really? You? Ghost?" Maya smiled faintly. "Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do it anyway." Webb nodded slowly. "You know, I was wrong about you. Back in that first briefing, I thought you were just another person trying to prove a point. But you're not. You're the real deal." "Thanks," Maya said quietly. "For what it's worth," Webb continued, "I'm glad you're on this team. If we're going to make it through Capstone, we're going to need you." Maya looked at him. "We're all going to make it through. Together." Webb smiled. "From your mouth to God's ears, Ghost." Dawn broke cold and merciless over the Alaskan wilderness. 9 candidates stood on the tarmac, fully geared, 80-pound rucks, weapons loaded with paint rounds, minimal rations, a single radio with encrypted frequencies. They looked at each other with a mixture of exhaustion and determination. Commander Hayes stepped forward, his breath fogging in the frozen air. "Your mission is simple," he said. "You'll be inserted 40 miles from here in a designated hostile zone. Instructors playing enemy combatants will be hunting you. You have 72 hours to reach 3 intel caches, extract the information, and make it to the extraction point without being compromised." He held up a hand. "Let me be clear, this is not a game. The conditions are real. The cold is real. If you get injured, you handle it. If you get captured, you endure it. If you fail, you're out. All of you." Kane stepped up beside him. "You've trained for this. You've bled for this. Now prove you deserve to wear the Ranger tab." The helicopter engines roared to life. "Load up," Hayes ordered. They were dropped in the middle of nowhere. The helicopter disappeared over the ridgeline, leaving 9 soldiers standing in waist-deep snow, surrounded by endless forest. The temperature was 15 below zero. The wind howled like something alive. Carter immediately took charge. "Okay, first cache is northeast, 12 miles. We need to move fast before they pick up our trail." "Agreed," Maya said. "But we need to establish comms protocol. Rodriguez, you're our best navigator. Take point. Webb, you're rear security. Everyone else, stay tight and stay quiet." Rodriguez pulled out his compass and map. "Cache 1 should be near the frozen riverbed. That's rough terrain." "Then we go around," Maya suggested. "Add distance but keep us off predictable routes." Carter frowned. "That'll slow us down." "Better slow than dead," Maya replied. Carter looked like he wanted to argue, but Webb spoke up. "She's right. Let's be smart." They moved out. The first 12 hours were brutal, but uneventful. They moved through dense forest, over frozen streams, across ridgelines that made their lungs burn. The cold was relentless. One candidate, a younger guy named Thompson, started showing signs of hypothermia. His speech slurred, his movements became sluggish. Maya called a halt. "We need to warm him up, now." "We don't have time," Carter protested. "We don't have a choice," Maya shot back. "If he goes down, we carry him. That slows us down more." She pulled out an emergency blanket and wrapped Thompson in it, then made him drink warm water from her canteen. 15 minutes later, he was stable enough to move. "Thanks, Ghost," Thompson said weakly. "Don't thank me yet." Maya replied. We've still got 60 miles to go. They reached Cache 1 at hour 18. It was hidden inside a hollowed-out tree near a frozen waterfall. Inside was a sealed container with mock intelligence documents and a set of coordinates for Cache 2. Rodriguez examined the documents. Cache 2 is northwest, another 16 miles. But there's a problem. What? Carter asked. The route takes us through a valley. Perfect ambush territory. Maya studied the map. We go over the ridge instead. It's steeper, but safer. That'll add 4 hours, Carter said. And keep us alive, Maya countered. Carter looked around at the group. Vote. Who wants to take the valley? 2 hands went up. Who wants the ridge? 6 hands, including Carter's own. Ridge it is, he muttered. Hour 36. They were halfway up the ridge when the first shots came. Paint rounds slammed into the trees around them. Instructors had found them. Contact! Webb shouted. The team scattered, taking cover behind rocks and trees. Maya counted at least 6 hostiles below them, advancing up the slope. We're pinned! Liu shouted. Maya's mind raced. They couldn't go back. More hostiles would be coming from behind. They couldn't stay. They'd be overrun. The only option was forward. Rodriguez, she called out. Can you reach that outcropping at the top of the ridge? Rodriguez looked up. Maybe. It's exposed. If you can get there, you'll have overwatch. You can cover our advance. Rodriguez hesitated, then nodded. I'll do it. He broke cover and sprinted uphill. Paint rounds chased him, snapping past his head. He dove behind the outcropping and immediately set up his rifle. I'm in position, he called. Covering fire, Maya ordered. Rodriguez opened up, his paint rounds forcing the instructors to take cover. In that moment, Maya led the team in a desperate uphill assault. They moved fast, using every bit of cover, firing on the move. Thompson took a hit to the shoulder. Paint exploded across his uniform. I'm out, he shouted. Keep moving, Maya yelled. We don't stop. They reached the top of the ridge, breathing hard, hearts pounding. Behind them, the instructors had stopped pursuing. But Thompson was dead. In a real scenario, he'd be a casualty. Kane's voice crackled over their radio. Candidate Thompson is KIA. Continue mission. Thompson sat down, devastated. The rest of the team looked shaken. Maya knelt beside Thompson. You fought hard. You did everything right. It doesn't matter, Thompson said bitterly. I failed. No, Maya said firmly. You gave us time to escape. That's not failure. That's sacrifice. She stood and looked at the remaining 8. Let's finish this. For him. Hour 52. They reached Cache 2. They were down to 8 candidates, exhausted, hungry, and running on fumes. But they were still moving. Cache 2 contained more intelligence and coordinates for the final cache, 24 miles northeast. That's cutting it close, Webb said, checking his watch. We've got 20 hours left. We can make it, Maya said. We move through the night, no stops except for hydration. What if they hit us again? Carter asked. Then we fight, Maya said simply. Hour 68. 4 hours left. They were 8 miles from the final cache when disaster struck. Lou stepped wrong on a frozen log and went down hard. Her ankle twisted with an audible crack. She screamed. Medic! Someone shouted. Maya was already moving. She examined Lou's ankle. Definitely sprained, possibly fractured. I can't walk, Lou gasped. Carter swore. We have to leave her. Absolutely not, Maya said. We don't have a choice, Carter argued. We can't carry her and make the deadline. Yes, we can, Maya said. She looked at Webb and Rodriguez. We rig a stretcher. 2 people carry, 2 people rotate every 30 minutes. We move fast. That's insane, Carter said. That's what Rangers do, Maya replied. We don't leave anyone behind. She looked around at the team. Are we Rangers or not? One by one they nodded. They fashioned a stretcher from ponchos and branches. Maya and Webb took the first carry. Rodriguez and Carter scouted ahead. They moved. Hour 71. 1 hour left. They reached Cache 3 with 58 minutes to spare. Inside was the final intelligence packet and coordinates for the extraction point, 3 miles north. They could make it. Maya helped lift Liu back onto the stretcher. One more push, she said. We're almost home. They moved through the forest like ghosts, despite the exhaustion, despite the cold, despite everything. At hour 72, exactly on time, they crossed into the extraction zone. A helicopter waited. Commander Hayes stood beside it, stopwatch in hand. He looked at the 8 battered, exhausted, determined candidates. Looked at Lou on the stretcher. Looked at Maya leading them in. He nodded slowly. You made it. No one celebrated. They were too tired. But they'd done it. 2 days later, after medical checks and debriefs, the final 8 candidates stood in formation. Commander Hayes walked down the line, stopping in front of each one. You've completed the hardest selection program in the U.S. Army, he said. You've proven you have the skill, the heart, and the discipline to serve in reconnaissance. You've earned the right to call yourselves Rangers. He stopped in front of Maya. Sergeant Reeves, he said quietly. Your father would be proud. Maya's eyes stung, but she kept her composure. Thank you, sir. Hayes pinned the Ranger tab on her shoulder. Welcome to the regiment. Final call to action. If you believe that courage isn't measured by gender but by heart, drop a comment and say honor. And don't forget to tell us where you're watching from. Let's see how far this story reaches.